Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I am William Hall from Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode, part 5 of Wonderful Israel's Anti-Semitic video discussion with Rabbi Moshe Shulman from Judaism'sAnswer.com. Welcome back, Rabbi. It's a pleasure.
Going to continue.
Yes, indeed.
Having a lot of fun here. What we did last time was like nothing in comparison to what comes ahead. It gets worse. It doesn't get better.
Okay.
Now, basically, what we've been covering are things that basically deal with attitudes or treatment towards women in looking upon them in a degrading way or whatever. That seemed to be what the first theme that they're trying to deal with. I've tried to divide this according to different themes that are there in sections so we could break it. You don't have to listen to the whole thing for 5 hours or however long it's going to take me to do it. So I can feel that I can do things as they are. So we're going to the second part. It's actually a continuation before, but I figured we should actually break it rather than have something that might go an hour and a half, which becomes difficult to listen to. Let's break it, then you can listen to it and then go on.
Excellent.
So we're going to continue here. So this is actually a continuation of this is part 5. It's a continuation of part 4. Again, it's off on the same video from One for Israel. Now, the next passage that they bring is 5, is from a work called Orcha HaGaonim, volume 8. Some rabbi in there. I have not been able to get a hold of it. So I cannot either confirm or deny what it says there. But what they claim is that it says that a woman's supposed to stand up when her husband comes in, and she shouldn't sit down until he comes in, and things of that nature. As I said, I don't have it. What I'd like to do first is actually compare it to what we see in 1 Peter 3, 5 and 6. It was in this way long ago that the holy women who hoped in God used to adorn themselves by accepting the authority of their husbands. Okay. So Peter is now praising women, the author of 1 Peter, because we know Peter didn't do it. Those people who were listening to my classes on the New Testament know that Peter did not write 1 Peter. He was an illiterate and he couldn't write anything. But anyway, so it says here, the holy women, which is basically telling women like Anastasia what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to accept the authority of your husband. I hope she's married. I don't know if she is, because if she's not married, of course, she's not saved because she has to, she's be saved for childbearing. If she doesn't have children, she can't be saved. As we saw before. Thus Sarah obeyed Abraham and called him Lord. So Anastasia, when you do get married, remember, when you walk into your house, you don't call him by his first name or anything like that. You should always refer to him as Lord. So if your husband is Shlomo, you should never refer to him as Shlomo or my husband or my darling husband. You should just call him Adoni. Okay? You'll become her daughters as long as you do what is good and never let fears alarm you. So that's what it's saying there. Now, there's nothing in Jewish law that says anything like that. As I did mention to you, we're supposed to actually give more honor to our wives than to ourselves, and certainly not to expect our wives to speak to us that way. It would be nice, but that's not what it is. So I tried to look. I could find no place where it said that a wife's supposed to treat her husband that way. And there are a number of works I know of that talk about familiar relations, ways to make husband and wife have what we call shalom bayis, peace in the home. None of them talks about that. Okay? It talks about mutual respect for each other and things of that nature, but it doesn't talk about that. There is, however, one place that I knew of where it's discussed about standing up, but it's not really generally customary. And I actually know one person who actually does it. That's for your parents. It is brought that as far as respect for your parents, you are supposed to stand up when they come into the room and, just then sit down afterwards as a sign of respect. Standing up as a sign of respect is not a sign of subservience. It's a way of showing one person that you have respect for the other person, even if, no matter what the situation. So, it's not a question of subservience, whereas Peter, of course, and we've seen other cases in the New Testament, the New Testament is quite clear that a woman is supposed to be subservient to her husband. And we're going to get more into relationship between husband and wife. It's going to come up because I do quote from passages from the Talmud. So we're going to deal with those issues. Okay? Now, he says that Anastasia, the woman on there, says that It seems that this particular person learned it from the Rambam, and it brings us to the next Rambam. Apparently that says something about hitting your wife for some reason. I don't know. Again, that's not in halacha. So it says in the Rambam in Hilchos Ishes, which laws of wives, chapter 21, that it says that a husband's allowed to beat his wife if she doesn't do the chores at home. That's what she says. Okay? The truth is totally different. It has nothing to do with that. Now, to understand what the Rambam's talking about here, you have to understand what marriage is about. Okay? You know, when you're married to husband and wife, there's different things that are done by one, different things by the other. And, you know, you work as a team on something. So marriage is coming to concessions, coming to ways of living together in order you share certain responsibilities. Now, traditionally in homes, there were certain functions the woman did. As we mentioned before, with the curse that went for Adam and the curse went for Eve, Adam's curse was, of course, that he had to work hard for a living and provide sustenance for his house. And Eve was basically involved in childbirth, which means things more around the house. That's what it was traditionally. And traditional homes is that way. Nowadays, by the way, it's much more lax. There are women who work. For example, my wife works. So different things are a little bit different about that. But here the Rambam is talking in chapter 21, which is what the reference to, is what are the things that is usual for a wife to do for a husband, okay? And those things which usual for a wife to a husband, then, you know, she's required to do it. It's part of the thing to keep the marriage together. If she doesn't do it, it's going to cause friction in the home. It's very important to keep people, because once there's friction in the home, it can come to divorce. And divorce is never considered a good thing in Jewish law. So it's very important that each person fulfills their function, not just honoring the other person, but also fulfilling their function as a husband to a wife and a wife to a husband. Each one has certain things to each other. And the Jewish law deals with it in that way. The purpose, of course, being is how is it best to keep the family unit together, husband and wife, and to live in peace with each other. Now, it starts off something, again, they're totally taking what it says, they're totally taking our context in many ways. It says here, Mahi oise lo, hakal kaminig medina. What the wife is to do for the husband all depends on what the custom is. So there's a lot of things that the Rambam talks about here, which was customary at that time, because, you know, there's much less strict segregation as far as what women do and what men do nowadays than it was. Women used to not work as much, very rare for women to work. There was certain family units, certain things. This is what used to be. So we talk about what used to be, and the general rule is that which is the normal to, what's normal to do, that's what it is. It's very hard to say if in society today certain things are norms. More traditional communities, maybe it is, but otherwise it's not. Now, what she says here is that the Rambam is saying that if a woman doesn't do her chores in the home, that a husband's allowed to beat her. Okay? Now, first of all, this chapter, as I said, 21, is talking about for the women, for the men. What she ignores is actually in chapter 13 and even further than that, it talks about what the man's obligates to the woman. There's a lot more stuff that the man's obligates to a woman than to a woman for a man, and we're going to get into some of that because it will come up. So it's understand that this is a equal relationship, man for woman and woman for man. There's no such thing as she's a slave to her husband, you know, like that. Not like, you know, subservient to husband. No, each one is a person like a king and queen. You know, best example I can think of is you know, Spanish history. Ferdinand and Isabella were king and queen, but they had their own small kings, but it brought together to Spain as one. Each one was a queen in one place, she was a queen in one place, a king in another. They were kings and queens themselves, but they came together to cause Spain, and each one had their own things. So the similar concept is what is here in Jewish law. And again, this is customary. This is, you know, if it's not customary for you, it's not a requirement as far as that. It's just customary to follow these kinds of things in order that there should be peace at the homes. Obviously, when you think of peace, the cause of things to not be peaceful is because of things like that. So what happens here is essentially like this. It talks about the things that a woman's supposed to do for the husband if it's customary. Okay? And it spends a number of paragraphs in here talking about different kinds of things until we get to paragraph 10. It says here that any woman who doesn't do what's customary, and these involve some other things, you know, family life between husbands and wives, the wife refuses to live with husband as he's supposed to, no kinds of things. then they try to force her to do it. Now, it doesn't say the husband forces her to do it. That's the important thing. It ends the paragraph with, that all of this of forcing, all of these things that are involved, all of this is according to what the dayan, which is a religious judge, says to do. What does that mean? Is if husband and wife are having a conflict and they go to somebody, a rabbi, to try and deal with this for counseling and stuff like that, and we see that one side or the other, this goes for the man's side also, by the way, the flip side for the man. If a man doesn't do it for his wife, he's also can be, forced to do it. Okay, and if not, they have a divorce. Divorces happen, but you first try and force one side or the other who's not fulfilling their responsibilities, who's not doing correctly, you do it that way. It's all to try and call peace in the family. It's not something against women to consider subservient, but it's what it is. At a time, there was courts that had the ability to actually punish people who weren't doing things properly, and so that was what the cases we're talking about here. When they had the ability, they say, "Listen, we could force you to do it," and if she doesn't, then of course they have a divorce. That's what talks about a little bit later. Again, the whole situation is making peace according to what's the custom. That's all. It's not something the husband is forcing his wife and doesn't. The husband can force the wife. The wife can force the husband in many different things. And Jewish courts will force them to do that. It happens all the time. It's one of the reasons why there's very few divorces in religious religious homes. Again, but we have to remember, again, going back to the main principle that Rambam says in the very beginning, when he talks about this particular thing about women, he talks about, again, a very important thing in the 15th chapter. He says very clearly that a person is supposed to honor his wife more than himself and to love his wife at least as much as himself, and supposed to speak to her in certain ways. This is the fundamental thing for marriage. The purpose in all this stuff is in order that a marriage should last, that they should have peace. If it's at all possible, this should be done. And if not, then even after trying to force somebody to do it in whatever way, they did have corporal punishment at the time, that they could actually physically force one person to fulfill responsibilities to the other if they were being unreasonable or whatever. I mean, if they had to divorce, they would have divorce, obviously. But if it's just, unreasonable, they would try to do it. And same thing with the men. But we don't have the kinds of things where a husband's allowed to beat a wife. I mean, if a husband beats a wife, that is basically grounds for the man to be forced to give his wife a divorce. There's no question about that. Spousal abuse is something that is grounds for divorce. Always has been, always will be. Okay, so then she continues to bring something which is so bizarre. I don't know. She claims that Rabbi Bachia and Rashi in Tractate Kedushin say that Satan was created with the woman together, with Chava. There are numerous problems with this. They claim that Rabbi Bachia has a commentary on Kedushin, Masechet Kedushin, that does not exist. He wrote a commentary on the Torah, which we do have. And in Kedushin, page 80, either side, neither Rashi or anything says anything about that. I couldn't find it there. I did some searching on it, and I couldn't find anything talking about Satan being created. The problem with that is, of course, that we have a well-known Jewish tradition, which Rashi brings in Genesis 1:5, based on the Genesis Rabbah, chapter 3, paragraph 8, which is known to every Jewish child, that during the 6 days of creation, different things were created on each day. The angels, of which Satan is one of the angels, was created on the 2nd day. But Chava was on the 6th day. Nobody's going to say that. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit anything that Judaism holds. So it's a source that cannot be found. And not only that, the source itself is contrary to what we've been taught. The angels were created on the 2nd day. Not the 1st day, because we wouldn't say the angels created with God, angels created God on the 2nd day. But in any case, the source doesn't exist. We can't find it. And also, it's contradictory to information that Rashi himself says in his commentary on the Torah. From that, he brings some unknown rabbi. She brings an unknown rabbi commenting about this previous passage. So the women are the source of evil, and they can only do evil things. I have no clue who this is. This is off the wall. I don't care who it is. The guy's off the wall. She doesn't even say the name of it, doesn't bring the source or anything like that, because it's absurd. Of course, we know there's people evil in the Talmud and the Tanakh. We bring it many times about that. Okay? It's absurd, and it has nothing to do with anything in Judaism. We don't believe that women are evil. Just again, look at the Rambam, what he says there. That we're supposed to love our wives. I mean, we're not supposed to love evil things like that. So it's totally outside of really what it's taught anywhere. Then she continues to try and build a case of some sort about spousal abuse, which we know is grounds for divorce anyways. A man can be forced with. From Rabbi Moshe Shulman, somebody who I have no who I have no idea, who she says claims that that Jewish law allows a man to kill his wife. Well, what happens is, what it really says there in the English is, don't be surprised when a man murders them, meaning for his wife. When in the Hebrew text, it says something that if a woman's like crazy, then you shouldn't surprise what happens. But no context is given. What's the context going on there? What's going on here? I mean, you know, the context, it's saying there's something, okay, but we don't know what he's talking about. What's the context of? Okay, we don't know what he's talking about. I mean, is it saying that, you know, she's a crazy person, and a man is subject to spousal abuse, unlike women that they don't usually find. Although it's true that women do spousal abuse from women, but that a man might kill his wife on that, and we should, you know, we understand why that happens. I mean, what is the context of it? There is nowhere in halacha which says that there's allowed to kill your wife. And the halacha is quite clear. No matter what the reason, if a man kills his wife, he's violated a Torah law. I mean, that's basic Torah law. I mean, it's stupid, makes no sense. I mean, it could be saying that, you know, again, he's not saying it's allowed. What's he saying that we can understand when something like that happens? Well, we can understand, you know, I guess if just like when there's something called battered wife syndrome, that if a woman, you know, kills her husband because she's been battered by him, we understand in the United States, you know, that grounds for getting off. He may be talking about a similar situation on the other side. If a wife is crazy and she's beating on her husband, that we shouldn't be surprised about it. The same battered husband syndrome, same thing. We don't know what it is. And this is what they do all the time. They bring something without enough context to know what's going on, something that's totally absurd, totally outside of what we know from Jewish law. There's no Jewish law you find that you're allowed to kill your wife. And there's laws. There's a whole part of Shulchan Aruch called Even Oezer, which deals with marriage law between husbands and wives. It doesn't say there anywhere the husband's allowed to kill the wife. The exact opposite. I mean, again, Rambam we talked about, and every Jewish man that gets married is taught this, that he's supposed to honor his wife. He's not supposed to hit her at all. The next thing that goes in here is, I thought this was cute and it was funny. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Is there was a Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein who said that women drivers are the cause of accidents, and women shouldn't drive for that reason. Well, there are a lot of jokes out there about women drivers. You just need to search the internet and you'll find them. There's jokes about women drivers, but it has nothing to do with halacha. There's no halacha thing that says women drivers are doing. I don't even think it's factually true, actually. I don't know if women are more prone for accidents. I mean, somebody could look up the things of that. But what does it have to do with anything? It means nothing. It has absolutely nothing. Now, he said, what she says after that, which again was where the lie was. Somebody said something, I don't even know if it meant tongue in cheek, that women should drive because of, you know, women drivers, the joke about it, maybe he's saying because that we don't know the context of what it is. But she says that this comes from what the Rambam says. The Rambam says that a woman is not allowed, the husband shouldn't allow his wife to go out of the house. Now, this is very important. It's brought, she's talking what it says in chapter 13 of the laws of women, of marriage. 13 talks about those things that a husband's supposed to do for the wife. And remember, I mentioned to you before that women do what's required, but this is the flip side of things. In this thing, we're saying, what is the obligation for a man for a wife? Okay? And I'll just read a little bit. From 1 through 7, it talks about what obligations that they have. So, for example, a man is obligated to buy her jewelry. In paragraph 4, it says jewelry. In paragraph 3, he's supposed to buy her anything she needs to the house. Anything she wants to the house, whatever kind of furniture, whatever he wants to the house, the husband's required to follow whatever she wants for that. He's supposed to buy her food and clothing and stuff like that. Everything the wife needs to have, a husband is required to provide for her, financially, according to the best of his ability. What else is there? So then she quotes something here, at what it says at the end of chapter, paragraph 11. It says, that it's not nice for a woman to do anything except to stay at home. And because it says everything with a woman in the house. Now, the problem is it brings the last paragraph. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't give the context of what's going on here. And that's extremely important because what happens, it talks in the beginning about talking about what the custom is for women, the women who go out. If they go to buy, for example, they go to the store, then they go to the store, whatever, they're going outside of the house. Okay? They have to go outside the house. They want to go to the parents, they go to the store, everything. Why? Because they says it because a woman's like imprisoned in her house. But the Rambam says no. If she has a need to go out, of course, women go out. Whatever they have to do, visit friends, visit parents, visit whatever. Okay, he says, why? I never buy a cycle because she's not in prison. Or she's to go, so then she can't go out and in. Woman doesn't have to go out. She can go out and in. The only thing is, that it's not really a nice thing for a person, for a woman, same thing for a man, to just spend her time out in the streets, not being at home at all with her husband, whatever. Just spending time outside like that. It's not good. But she can go out whenever she has a need. You have to go out to need, If she has to take us for a walk, she can take us for a walk. But, saying here that she's a prisoner at home, it's an absolute lie. The Rambam talks specifically about women being able to go outside the house, going outside the house and do whatever they want. There's nothing stopping that. It's just totally wrong. It's a libel against Judaism. The Rambam says specifically, she's not in prison. She can go out and come whenever she wants, basically. It's just not something that's preferable for a woman to spend the time in the street like that. She wants to go shopping with her friends. She can go shopping with her friends. She wants to go here. She wants to go to work. There's nothing wrong with that. She's not in prison. Nobody says she's in prison. But, of course, it's, just like men, it's not good for men to walk around the streets like that. Nothing in this chapter says anything that would indicate, anyways, whatsoever, that a woman is in prison, that she's not allowed to go. The husband can keep him going. It's not true. She can't go out. She goes to work. My wife goes to work. Nobody locks her in. It's not like Saudi Arabia where a woman's not allowed to go out unless she has a man with her. It's nothing like that. The Rambam doesn't say that. It's exactly not what the Rambam says. The Rambam says a woman is not there. All he's saying is that proper comportment for women, similar to men, is not to just, be hanging out on the street all the time. Have something to do, you do it and you come back. I don't walk around the street unless I have a reason to go somewhere. I don't hang around. Go out, you go someplace, you have somewhere to go, you come back. Hanging around is done. That's where bad things happen, hanging around. Okay, that's the end of this section. Mi'at Hashem, we will continue again shortly.
All right, very good, very good. Yep. Okay, so you guys sit tight. We will see you on the next episode.